The sun was just beginning to fall behind the old, rusted rooftops of Maple Ridge when the scream tore through the quiet evening air, raw, sharp, and powerful enough to freeze every moving soul on the street. A little girl, no more than 6, came running barefoot down the cracked pavement, her face streaked with tears and dust, her small hands trembling as she pointed toward a smoking pickup truck at the far end of the road. The town's notorious biker crew, known for their heavy boots and heavier reputations, turned their tattooed faces toward the sound just as she yelled again, her voice breaking, "They're hurting my mama!" And for a moment, just a moment, the world seemed to stop breathing. If you believe in kindness, compassion, and second chances, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps stories like this reach more hearts. Her cry was the kind that reached into a person's bones. It wasn't the noise of fear alone, it was the sound of someone who had already seen too much for her small age. The men, standing in a loose formation with their vests glinting under the sinking light, exchanged glances, not of annoyance, but of something closer to alarm. Their leader, a broad-shouldered man with a graying beard and arms covered in inked stories, stepped forward slowly. His crew knew him as tough, unbreakable, a man hardened by asphalt and scars, but even he wasn't ready for the way that little girl crashed into him, grabbing his vest with her trembling fingers, her voice muffled against him as she sobbed, "Please, someone is hurting my mama." For years, the town had painted these bikers as troublemakers, loud engines, leather jackets, rough hands, and rougher rumors. But the truth was quieter. They were broken pieces trying to stitch themselves back together, haunted men who understood pain better than peace. And in that instant, seeing the fear in that child's eyes, something in them cracked open. The leader knelt, leveling his gaze with hers, watching the panic in her small chest as she struggled to catch her breath. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. She tugged his arm, urging him to follow, pointing repeatedly toward the smoking truck, and without waiting for another word, he stood and motioned to his men. The transformation was immediate, no swagger, no attitude, just urgent steps toward danger. As they neared the truck, the smoky haze thickened. The back door hung open, one wheel completely snapped off, and the ground littered with shards of glass. A woman's faint cries floated through the metallic groan of the wounded vehicle. The leader's jaw tightened as he pushed forward. Inside, the woman lay slumped against the seat, bruised and bleeding, her breathing sharp and uneven. She wasn't hurt by the accident alone. There were marks, fresh ones made by human hands, hands that were nowhere in sight. The little girl reached the truck behind them and grabbed her mother's arm, shaking it desperately. Her voice came out in small, broken pieces as she said, "Mama, I brought help. I brought help." The mother's eyelids fluttered, her voice barely above a whisper, as she looked up at the men surrounding her. There was hesitation in her eyes, fear mixed with a kind of exhausted disbelief. She had no reason to expect kindness from strangers, much less a group of men the whole town warned others to avoid. But what she didn't know was that every one of those men carried the memory of someone they couldn't save, someone they wished they could have fought for. And now, staring at a woman who had been running from someone dangerous, and a child who had lost her voice screaming for help, those old regrets stirred awake inside them. The bikers moved as a unit. One gently lifted the woman from the seat, cradling her like something fragile. Another covered the little girl with his leather vest to shield her from the smoke. The leader called out commands, sharp, quick, decisive, transforming the chaotic scene into something almost controlled. By the time they reached their clubhouse down the street, people from the neighborhood had gathered, staring with wide eyes and mixed emotions. Some whispered, some frowned, some held onto their children a little tighter. The bikers didn't care. They brought the woman inside and laid her on a worn but clean couch. One of them, who had once been an EMT before life took him through darker roads, immediately began tending to her wounds. The little girl refused to leave her mother's side, holding her hand tightly, but her sobs had quieted, replaced by fearful silence. The leader sat beside her, not touching her, not crowding her, just sitting, letting her know she wasn't alone. He understood that kind of quiet. It was the quiet of a storm that had already done its damage. As minutes turned into an hour, the woman finally regained full consciousness. Her voice came out steady now, though still weak, as she explained that she had been trying to escape an abusive situation. The man she was running from had found her again on the old highway, forced her off the road, and fled when he saw the truck crash. She had told her daughter to run, to find help, never imagining help would arrive in leather vests and heavy boots. Her story hit the room like a punch. Every man there had once been dangerously close to becoming their worst version, and every one of them knew what it meant for someone to feel trapped. By morning, the entire town was talking. People who had once crossed the street to avoid the bikers now stood outside their clubhouse, confused yet curious. Word had spread fast. The girl, the mother, the rescue, the truth. And then it spread even faster that the bikers had confronted the man responsible, handing him over to the police with evidence of his crimes. For the first time in a long time, Maple Ridge saw those men not as trouble, but as protectors. Flawed, rough, imperfect protectors, but protectors all the same. The mother and her daughter were given shelter, safety, and a community that circled around them in a way they had never felt before. And the bikers? They found something too, something they didn't expect. Respect, redemption, a chance to rewrite the story the town had written for them. The leader would never forget the moment the little girl hugged him days later, whispering into his vest, "Thank you for saving my mama." He had saved many things in his life, but none had ever felt like that. If this story touched your heart even a little, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us continue creating meaningful stories. Special requests, tell us in the comments what part of the story moved you the most. And so, in a town where judgments once ran deeper than understanding, a single cry from a brave little girl changed everything, reminding everyone that sometimes the most unexpected heroes are the ones who carry the heaviest pasts and the biggest hearts.